Okay, I'll forget what I do. Those are my presentation notes. And brilliant. So yes, hello everyone. Thank you for waiting there for that mistake to happen. So yes, my name is Antonio Roberts, and I am a new media artist and curator based in Birmingham in the UK. And I'm going to talk a little bit about one of these artistic practices that I do and several things that I like to do. So for a long time, the majority of my work has been centered around, sorry, my voice is deep, has been centered around making artwork out of errors, about something that is commonly known as glitch art, whether you've heard it or not. So in this short presentation, I'll be taking you through some of my experiences in creating it and in using errors in software to create art. So yeah, if you want to follow me, this is my website, hellocatfood.com. You can ask me later about the name. I'm on Twitter as well, and yes, I do really like cats. So yeah, just a bit of facts there. So my journey started in 2009. I got a bit tired of using graphical user interfaces, whether it be in Photoshop or GIMP. And I was on the hunt for other ways of creating art that were a little bit more experimental. I made a little general inquiry on Twitter about, hey, I need to find out about software artists, is what I was calling it, basically people who make artwork out of code. And my friend was like, just said, hey, have you heard of glitch art? And it was from then that really my whole world started to open up. And I started to see that if I wanted to create artwork which looked a bit noisy, I had to incorporate noise into it in some way. For a long time, I'd been inspired by the work of Arturo Herrera, who would make artwork from collages and cutting up things, even employing people to make collages out of the things that he's cutting up. And yeah, so this is his work. And so I was sometimes creating artwork that replicated it. So I was layering things upon colors, and this is one that I made. And just layering it up so that it looked colorful. Some of these made in Photoshop, some of these made in Inkscape, a variety of things. And yeah, so for those who don't know how glitch art is made, I'll just do a very quick demonstration. Well, not necessarily demonstration, I can do that later. Glitch art is made, there's a variety of ways you can make it. Some of the usual ways is breaking down video, image and file formats by, for example, opening them up in text editors. So here's a little nice image of a birdie right here. We're going to mess it with it a little bit. And so when you open up an image in a text editor, it usually looks a little bit like this. It's just gobbledygook. But if you start changing things around and just deleting things and adding things in, it gets a little distorted. So that's one method of creating glitch art. We can go through examples in the workshop that I'll be doing on Saturday, I believe. And another method is something called data moshing. So if you've ever created things, ever been watching TV and the signal goes a little bit, you'll start to see images that look a little bit like this, or a bit like, well, this, or even this. I like this one myself. I didn't make it, but they're really cool. The way of making this is a little bit more complex, but a few people have created different ways of doing it. So Nick Breeze created the glitch codec tutorial, in which it's not the output video that's being glitched, it's the codec itself. So this is a distribution based on Ubuntu, and he's hacked FFmpeg so that when you encode any video, it will encode glitched. Yeah, and this is some screenshots of how it's run. You can burn this to a CD if you want. And the output similarly looks quite glitchy. Another person has created file formats, Kim Assendorf has created file formats specifically to be glitched. so that to expose the underlying texture of them, called Eptrafile. These are available for Mac OS X, but I'm sure we can try and compile it to Linux today, right? Lots of different file formats. And some examples of what it looks like. This was originally an image of a bull in a place called Bullring in Birmingham, which you can almost see. And sometimes when it was glitched in the same way of before, it was just give you a load of colors. I like it. And so for the last method of creating glitch art, just kind of requires being observant and finding them. So myself and this guy, Jeff Donaldson / Nintendo, we made this project called Glitch Safari. For those times when you've just been playing with a computer and it just breaks, or you've just spotted something in the wild, a screen, or whatever. So that's a way of making glitch art, or several ways. But there's one more method, which relates to, I guess, the title of this talk, and that's forcing applications to do things that they are not supposed to be doing. Allow mistakes to happen. Yeah. The most common way of doing this is something called data bending, which mostly involves opening up an image in an audio editor. So I use Audacity, and going back to our flighty friend here, if you open it up in Audacity, which I will teach you all another day, you can see the waveform. But when you've got it in there, you can just kind of start adding effects. And here, it gets like this. So this is that same bird with an echo effect on it. And you can actually see the data being echoed. Another effect, I actually don't remember what this one is, but I like it still. But you can go through the whole list and just keep adding. But, sorry, excuse me. Yeah, so how does this constitute a mistake? Well, think about it in real world terms. If you had an image and you wanted to, you just view it with your eyes, why would you try and put an image, say, in a tape player? It just wouldn't make any sense. You've got these two physical materials that one cannot interpret the other. But transferring this real-world thinking into programming, we can put an image into an audio editor because everything is just data. And all that computers do is interpret this in a way sorry, I'll go back to the slide again. It just interprets it in a certain way. There are certain flags to say that, hey, this data is image data. Let's open it up in that instead. And sometimes when you try and do this, it might not like what you're doing. So there are lots of warnings that computers give that, hey, you're doing something which might not be what you want to do. And yeah, that's a good thing that they try and do this because it can stop mistakes from happening. But what if you want to? What if you're trying to tell them that the data I'm trying to work with is the one that I want to work with in the way that I want to work with it? So for example, when I'm making the glitch art in Audacity and I try to export it back out as a bitmap, it goes, what are you doing? I'm like, yes, I do want to do this. And excuse me one second. Yeah, and it becomes a little bit of a battleground, this way of working. Me fighting with the computer, me fighting with the software, and I just get errors all the time, or are you sure? So this is the Audacity error. Then you get, when you've actually glitched it, saying, I cannot read a fatal error in something or other, and oh no, is it corrupted? Well, it is, in one way, yes, it is. Excuse me. And yeah, another error. These ones that I encounter quite a lot. But, so with this knowledge of things being just data and there's only headers and file extensions, it means that you can try and manipulate some programs to open up data in a different one. So I know what a JPEG header is and what it looks like. So that means I can attach this JPEG header to any sort of data to make it into a JPEG. So using this knowledge, I turned a mix CD that I made into images. If you look on the blog, you can find this. And these, believe it or not, are songs. I think, yeah, this one is by a band called Pavement, called Cut Your Hair, this song. It's an indie song. This is a Foo Fighters song. This is an Alien Ant Farm song. And if you like your noise rock, this is Sonic Youth, believe it or not. But it's still all just data. All I've added in is a header to help the program to interpret it in a different way. You can still convert this back to an MP3 and play it. And the software for that is written in Pure Data. You can download it. It's all open source, and I can take you through that on Saturday. And this was actually ported to Super Collider and I think processing as well. So if you want to try it there, you can. But yeah, and even though these errors can happen, as I said, it's a bit of a battleground, and sometimes these errors are fixed. So there was one particular way of creating glitch art which involved kind of truncating a JPEG, and then a program would try to read it and fill in the blank, essentially. So this was happening in Photoshop, and, well, you can see what was happening. There's a blank space, and it would try to open it, and it would just create this really nice glitch art, but then they fixed it, unfortunately, so it doesn't work anymore. And then, but it's not exclusive to proprietary software. In Lua, the programming language for games, they also fixed it. So this was reading the contents of your video frame buffer and pulling it into a texture and in a game, and you could scroll through it. But then they fixed it, so you can't do that anymore. Great. So it used to look a bit like this. And very, very briefly, I'll show you, like, in a way you might be thinking, like, what's the point of doing all of this? It's nice looking, I guess. But I've been creating artwork with this methods for a while now. So I'll just show you a couple things. You have to, excuse me, I have to go on to a different thing. So these, for example, are a series of images created exploiting JPEG compression. They originally started out as 10 by 10 pixel images, and as you scale and reduce the quality, you get these really nice, I guess, textures that come out of it. This was a script that was made, and you can, again, download, use, and abuse as you wish. And a video showing the process. Yep, I'll move on from that. I looked at glitching fonts as well in a piece called I Am Sitting in a Room. In about 10 seconds, something's going to happen, and I'll explain as it happens what's happening. So as you know, kind of everything, all the fonts are just vector data or point data. If you randomize the position of the points, you just get this bleeding of the data of the points. It's only 40 seconds long. But the way that this was made meant that for each frame, it's using a new font file, and so you can download each of the 1,000 font files if you really want, and you install them on your computer. And here's a few. So you can see this is like iteration number 62. Then it gets to iteration number 102, iteration 170, and I've just restarted my computer. Because as I was going to say, sometimes, depending on the rendering, it will restart your computer because it's broken. And actually, it's good because I'm nearly finished now that it's that this happened. But the point of all of this really is that if, with things that are on computers, we're working with ones and zeros. We're not working with material objects. So why are we trying to impose these real-world restrictions on how we create artwork on computers? Yes, these programs are great, like being able to do, recreate sort of ways of working like Paint, but why are we trying to recreate the physicality of Paint and all of its restrictions on computers? To really push the boundaries of digital artwork, I think we need to explore what is unique to computers, and that is that there is no I guess, stable ground apart from it all being ones and zeros. We can interpret anything in any way. And in many ways, it's up to artists and users to push the boundaries of what these software can do, what they can do. And in a way, it's up to developers to allow these mistakes to happen. So, thank you. I didn't do that on purpose, by the way. Yeah, it wasn't supposed to restart. But yeah, any questions?